This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome to Wish TV's Business, Equity, and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. This show speaks directly to entrepreneurs to help educate, inform, and provide necessary information to develop the skills you'll need to start and run a successful small business. The information comes straight from successful business owners and community leaders who have experienced all the trials and errors that a new business owner faces. Our goal is to provide useful and compelling content that focuses on diversity, equity, and opportunities. Every week, we'll focus on 7 segments designed to cover the important and often misunderstood topics you'll face when starting a small business. You'll be able to watch the show right here every week or catch the live stream on wishtv.com. You can also access all of our content and share it on demand anytime at beoshow.com. And our site will keep growing as the weeks go on with new content and additional resource information. Some of the topics coming up on today's Business, Equity, and Opportunities: a local business owner who has found great success investing in new businesses talks about the role that angel investors play in our Access to Capital segment. We'll learn the importance of good personal banking habits and the ability to start a new business in our Accounting and Bookkeeping segment. And we'll take a look at the nonprofit sector in our Industry Focus. We begin with our first topic, getting started. Each week, this segment will touch on some of the planning and preparation you'll need to consider from the very beginning to get your ideas off to a great start. This week, we find out what a business model canvas is and why you might want to consider one to help you create your business plan.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Getting started.
Emil, Ekiyor, founder of InnoPower, shares how a strategic management template can give entrepreneurs a head start with their new business plan.
Today, most people use the term business model, right? And in trainings and schools you go to today, people use what's called a business model canvas. That tool allows you to look at your business as a whole. What's your value proposition? What makes you unique, right? Who's your customer? How do I reach my customer? What medium am I going to use to reach my customer? What does my customer want? How much are they willing to pay, right? The front end of all of that is so important to a business, right? Because I've had great ideas and failed in the past because I based those things on assumptions, right? I never went to identify the customer, talk to the target customer, understand what the customer really wants and what they're willing to pay. So without all of those, it's pretty hard to get investment dollars because people invest in you to make money back. They don't just give money away. To get money back, they want to make sure that you are making some money or you've made some money before I give you my money, right? And I think sometimes there's a misconception that people invest in ideas. You know, there are a lot of ideas, right? People invest in people. People bet on people. Like, I believe in that CEO, right? He's gonna make sure this happens. He can make this idea happen. He has the team around him to make this idea happen. The grit, the desire, and he has a great idea. But he has a plan on how this is. He understands his customer, the market he's trying to reach, his resources, what resources he needs, the people he needs, all of those things. So if you don't have those things, in sports we say you're drawing plays in the sand, right? And you don't win many games drawing plays in the sand, right? So again, it goes back to the playbook. It's, okay, you have this idea, now how are you gonna do it? And that's what people wanna know. People wanna know the how, and then the who. So the need for a business plan, a business model, is so important, right? Because that's the first thing you wanna know when you sit down with people. Have they thought through this? And if I need money from a bank or from an investor, from my family, right? I want to know that you spent some time thinking through this and you can pay me back. And the only way you're going to pay me back is when you make money. So everybody goes into business to make money, period. I tell people this all the time. Nobody goes into business to pay back loans. So it's revenue, 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 revenue. So how do I show that I can make money, I can generate revenue, I can generate revenue, I can generate revenue? You have to have a plan, and you have to be able to articulate that plan in detail. So not having a plan and thinking you're gonna move, if somebody has done that, then I just need to know how they did it, right? Because it doesn't work in the real world that way.
Still to come in our Access to Capital segment, angel investor John Thompson shares the qualities he looks for when deciding what he'll invest in. You can find more segments like this and more resources to help you start your own small business online anytime at beoshow.com. You're watching Business Equity and Opportunities. We'll be right back.
Getting started, made possible by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome back to Business Equity and Opportunities. Each week in our Access to Capital segment, we will provide tips and explore opportunities to help entrepreneurs in their quest to find money for their startups. This week we look at angel investors, investors who are usually private business owners who like to focus on small business ventures in return for equity in the business.
From Wish TV, this is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Access to Capital.
John Thompson is a very successful businessman who's found great success in investing in new small business startups as an angel investor.
Well, the thing that I started doing about 10 years ago that I do increasingly is I'm an angel investor, investing in many, many companies to help them grow. I do it with a profit motive, making a return. But at the same time, I'm very pleased that it creates and attracts high-paying jobs. One of those companies is TMAP, Make My Move, where we're the #1 company. If you're interested in working remotely in America, we're the #1 company for you to deal with. Our website is the website for remote workers around the country. And that business is, we've gone from 5 million remote workers in America pre-pandemic to 36 million today, remote workers. That's how prevalent it is. And those people are determined to stay remote. They're gonna live where they want and do their jobs remotely. They're determined to do it. So if you won't let them do it, they're gonna quit. And so we do that both offensively and defensively. We work with companies so that their remote workers, maybe they're working remote, but they stay right here in Indiana. They don't leave the state. And then in other cases, we're working with communities to attract remote workers. That's a hot area, but it's also good for the state. Remote workers tend to they're high-paying jobs, very high-paying. And when you attract a remote worker, you're attracting, it's very unique, 2 things, a worker and a job, because they're bringing a job that didn't exist in this state, and the state benefits. We get the income tax from that job. They move here and pay property tax, sales tax. They eat in the restaurants, shop in the stores, and you name it. And so they bring a lot of revenue. And we've attracted a lot of remote workers working with communities. And folks will say, well, you know, who want to live in a rural community? We've shocked people. We'll put ads in for someone to move to Greensburg. We got 2,000 applications. Now, Greensburg's paying an incentive, and Greensburg created content on our website. They created an idea. One couple became grandparents. They said, we're your local grandparents. So not just they'll babysit, but they'll go to the softball games and the baseball games. They'll go to the dance recital with you. So you're cheering for your daughter because her grandparents live in, who knows, New York City is where her grandparents are. So they can't be at all of those things. I mean, it's just free meal once a month. A lot of things to acclimate people to the community. And then we put all of that content on our website. It's the #1 remote worker website in the country. And so I invest in that company. I think it's going to be very, very, very successful. And many others. Scale is manufacture edge computers. I'm very confident that company is going to do well, and it has done well. It's grown to be over 100 workers, mainly here in Indiana, making $85,000 a year plus. Those are the kind of jobs you want to create. So I can go on and on with those kinds of investments. We have a new company, Spoke Note, where we produce little stickers with QR codes. You buy a pack of 10 stickers. When you send your grandkid and out of state a gift, you put a sticker on the gift. When they scan that QR code, there you are, happy birthday, and it's you and maybe, your husband or your sister or cousin, doing a little cheer for them. You can't be at their big championship baseball game, but you send that QR code. So that's Spoke Note. And it's many other things that Spoke Note can do. But that's kind of the next chapter for me, investing in those kind of companies with a preference for Indiana-based businesses. I think it's twofold. One, I can help our state, but two, I can get a return doing it. I think there's a lot of talent in the state. We have one company here in the state, Meta CX. They're creating an entire new ERP system. So for a company to operate that creates equal value between multiple, so not just the customer and the vendor, but other relationships. And you are creating value differently and better than you have in the past. And so that's Meta CX, and those guys were some of the founders of ExactTarget. And so the beauty of it is many of these entrepreneurs stick around town and reinvest in new opportunities. And that's phenomenal.
Our thanks to John Thompson for his expert thought in helping our Access Capital segment. You can find out more about access to capital on our website, beoshow.com. Up next, our weekly This Week in Business segment, where we take a look at some of the timely issues that could well affect you and what you do with your new business venture. You're watching Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Stay with us.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome back to Business, Equity, and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Successful business owners say it's very important for entrepreneurs to stay on top of the latest news and events happening in their community because they may affect their business and their customers. Each week on this show, we'll take a look at stories that carry important implications to both.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. This Week in Business.
Successful business owners say it's very important for entrepreneurs to stay on top of the latest news. Current events in the world and in the community can have an enormous effect on small businesses. Carolyn Mosby has spent her career as an advocate for the economic growth of minority business enterprises. She shares her thoughts and concerns as she looks to the future.
I think we're on the right path, but my question is whether it's sustainable. just because people woke up 12 months ago doesn't mean that this issue and this problem hasn't been around. That's the whole reason why our organization was created 50 years ago, was because corporations saw a need for an organization to help them find diverse suppliers and to validate whether they were, in fact, diverse, and to connect them so that they could enjoy contracting opportunities. So this is nothing new. We have many corporations that join our organization simply just to say they're members. They don't participate, they don't have a program, they don't come to any of our events, they don't engage with any of our suppliers. They simply pay us a membership fee to say that they're affiliated with us and that they support. Well, the support is only valid if there's engagement and if there's contracting opportunities. So if you don't have a real program, paying a membership fee to my organization doesn't do anything for the diverse suppliers that want to do business. And I think if you look at the bigger picture from an economic impact and an economic development perspective, when we attract businesses or we go out to recruit major corporations to move to Indiana or central Indiana, we ask them to hire people, we give them tax breaks, but the one thing we don't ask them to do is to make a commitment to do business with diverse-owned companies. Because when those major corporations come here, those diverse-owned companies want to do business with them. So if we truly have a commitment to empowering diverse businesses in this state, I think that when we are bringing corporations here, one of the things we need to ask them to do is to make a commitment to spend a certain amount of dollars with diverse-owned companies on a consistent basis, and we don't do that. So I appreciate the fact that, this last year and a half, many corporations have stepped up to the plate, but my organization has been around for 50 years. And there are many corporations in Central Indiana that are not members of my organization or other organizations like mine, where we've been knocking on their doors for 50 years, trying to engage them and ask them to support minority business development, and it was only because of what I call the George Floyd guilt that we've had companies that have stepped up. But my question is, in 2 years, where will you be? How are you tracking those dollars that you have committed? Because there's really nobody out there looking to see how the dollars are being allocated. We read the press release that says this company is going to commit several million here and they're going to do this in the community, but nobody's really watching that, right? So in 2 years, where will we be? I think that's the question we all need to ask. One of the things that most of us in this space don't do is that we're not very proactive about going out and seeking the minority and diverse entrepreneurs to take advantage of our services. It's a very reactive type of service that we provide, and we really should be more proactive, because if we were more proactive, I think the connection point between those diverse entrepreneurs and organizations like mine and others, those connection points would happen a lot sooner.
I really think the Business Equity Opportunity show is a great idea. As an entrepreneur, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you don't even know what questions to ask. So having a program that's going to share with you some business principles for some leaders in the community that saw their fair share of success and failure is going to help accelerate your learning curve. It's going to help you become a better business owner a lot faster.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I'm out in the community and people have never heard of LISC or don't know exactly what we do. And so we're grateful for segments like this, because it gives us an opportunity to tell our story, but it also gives the community an opportunity to hear the story and to hear what services, we provide.
But it's for entrepreneurship. And Indiana, we've been in the bottom 3 states in terms of new business formation. And we got to move up. We can't be in the bottom 3 states. We got to strive to get to the middle and then to the upper half, and then continue to strive to get higher and higher. Encourage new business formation. Entrepreneurs like me, great, but we have to have more of it and work with and get the word out that these resources are there. And that's where you all come in. And you have mouthpieces like me. I'm happy to sit down with you, but many others as well. No one can do a better job getting the word out than you guys.
When we come back, Marshawn Wolley talks about how your personal banking habits can affect your business success. That's coming up next on Business Equity and Opportunities.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome back to Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Most business leaders agree that anyone starting a new business needs to have a firm hold on their accounting and bookkeeping. Each week we will address various areas related to the costs that can make or break your business depending on how you handle them. Experts tell us the best accounting and bookkeeping practices often start with your personal banking habits.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Accounting and bookkeeping.
Marshawn Wolley is the president and CEO of Black Onyx Management. He's a consultant specializing in areas that focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. His firm recently did an impact study for a Black-led community development financial institution in which he quoted a survey of Black businesses showing 80% felt access to capital was a significant problem. This has forced many minority businesses to rely on personal funds as their only option. He says compounding the problem is a lack of education in proper personal accounting and bookkeeping practices.
One of the things that was really shocking to me was that it was an FDIC survey that looked at banking rates. And so one of the things we learned was the Black community nationally was around 50% either unbanked or underbanked. And when you talk to bankers locally, they think that might be even higher. What that signals is weak banking relationships. That means that you're not going in and asking for a mortgage. You may not be going in and asking for a credit card. You're probably not going in and asking for business loans. And so if you're not asking, then there's no way that you can get the information to make a decision. And so it's very concerning. We need to figure out, again, how to demystify banking. One of the things I think has to be appreciated is that your personal finances are going to have a significant impact on your business finances, particularly when you're starting out. And so it's going to be very important to have like a financial plan to think about, okay, what do you look like as a credit risk to folks that might want to lend you money to start a business? And have you been able to fully manage the credit that you do have, if you have any credit at all? We can't underestimate the role of personal finances and having a plan for your personal finances, because that's going to translate into business success. You have to have the discipline to make the right decision at the right moment, at the right time, and really even have a plan to know where you want to go and where you want to be. Having an accountant or a bookkeeper to help you understand what your financials look like quarterly from a balance sheet perspective, or even understanding your cash flow to be able to know when you can make purchases and when you should not make certain purchases. And so you can look great, and you have to understand the interplay between the balance sheet and the cash flow, because you can look great on your balance sheet, but if your cash flow isn't operating properly, then you just look good on paper and you're not actually operating appropriately as a business. One of the things that's really been helpful for me in my business is having a great relationship with an accountant, because you just need someone to kind of be looking over your shoulder a little bit to help you understand what your financials look like and to even plan for your taxes. You don't want a huge tax bill at the end of the year. You can plan for that and make payments over time. You can also understand what's going on with your business. Are certain business units or segments of your business doing well? Are they running flat? Are they going the wrong direction? And part of being a business owner is coming up with the ideas to improve your finances. And so you can't do it all. You need help, and one of the key areas that I think folks really should consider is getting a good accountant, a good bookkeeper to kind of help you with your financial planning.
You're watching Wish TV's Business Equity and Opportunities, our new show designed for people interested in starting their own small business. For more information on all of our topics, check out our website. It's beoshow.com. You can access all of our segments and resources on demand. Also, sign up for our Business Equity and Opportunities newsletter. When we come back, we'll take a glimpse inside what's happening in the world of digital advertising. Also, our industry focus is on the nonprofit sector, and meet the youngest CEO of a top 10 bank in the country. Hear his success story. All that and more when we return on Business Equity and Opportunities.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities.
Welcome back to Business Equity and Opportunities. Running your business day to day covers a wide variety of topics. Most of the things to consider when starting a new business eventually lead you to how you'll handle your day-to-day operation. Each week on Business Equity and Opportunities, business professionals share their experience in keeping a business running. This week we look at digital advertising and some of the things you need to consider.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Running your business day to day.
Shiela Smiley is Hirons' Senior Vice President for Media and Digital.
Yeah, you're right. Advertising has changed significantly in the last 10 years. And mostly because there's the digital technology enhancements as well as media consumption changes. So as more and more channels are available for the user and you've got screen time that they're sharing, it really makes it important to understand how your users are consuming information, making sure you understand that target audience so that you can invest in channels that you have minimal waste. Yeah, just like you and I, when we consume information on a daily basis, we are looking at different channels. So we're watching television, we're driving down the road and see a billboard. We are on social media in the evening catching up with our friends, and there's all these different channels, and making sure that you're in front of the right audience in multiple ways really just plants that seed with them multiple times, and we need that recurring frequency so that when they're ready to find services with a business like yours, they know who to reach out to. Entrepreneurs can do this thing on their own, depending again on what their background is and what they studied in business school, but I would say just like any other thing that you invest in, go to the experts. And a lot of times agencies or marketing consultants will end up paying for themselves. They understand the cost of the market, they understand the geography. A lot of times they will invest in third-party data to understand your consumers and how they're using and viewing information. So you're automatically going to have some shared savings by being closely targeted in your channels. So when I'm asked how much it costs to advertise, it really depends on what your output expectations are. So you really want to start backwards and say, what do I need my advertising to do for me? And then you look at the amount of customers, the increase in phone calls, the leads that you're going to be receiving, and do the math backwards and say, based on my profit margin, what will I be able to afford in an advertising investment? Then you find the right channels based on your target audience to basically maximize that investment. So I would say, a business plan is going to then lead to your communications plan, which then is going to lead to your media and advertising plan. So as a part of that, understanding what portion advertising needs to be accountable to is the first step. Then thinking about what are those channels that your target audiences are consuming. So when you go back to that multi-channel approach, you're looking at traditional channels like television, radio, outdoor messaging. Then coupling that with digital channels such as display advertising and paid social advertising and paid search. And all of these channels and others have their own space when it comes to your advertising plan, just understanding where your consumer is in their journey. Do they know about your brand, or are you just telling them about your brand for the first time? So are you launching your business, or are you reminding them you're there so that when they're ready for your services, they know who to contact? So all the channels really work well together. It really just depends on your objective. I think advertising will continue to evolve. There's a time and a place to use lots of different channels, and I don't think those are going away. There were days, 10 years ago where people thought print was dead, and people thought, television, there's some cables taking the way, and there's, people are being cord cutters. So there's all these things that are being added to the mix. I don't think anything is going away. I think it's just evolving in how it's being used. So when you think about a user and how many screens they have in front of them in any given day, it's just understanding how do you get in front of the right screen at the right time.
I love it. I love the concept of the show because I think when I heard the first about the idea, my whole thought process was this can be a platform to give, Jane Smith, Joe Smith, whoever is sitting and watching this show, just an opportunity to really look and say, maybe it's not as far as I thought. Maybe it's right within my reach if I really do assess my risk, understand how to be capitalized, and put myself in the best place to be able to work whatever plan I have. And that's what I'm hoping that anything I'm giving in the segment or anybody else is able to inspire others to do.
Giving entrepreneurs, would-be business owners, management teams, the opportunity to know where resources are, whether they be the financial resource providers or the technical assistance that companies need to put together their business plans, to work with accounting firms for their financial needs, and a myriad of other services that are all necessary for any level business to succeed and grow and thrive.
Still to come, our industry focus. Dr. David Hampton, LISC CEO, cites some ways that LISC is helping both businesses and the communities they serve. It's coming up shortly on Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome back. I'm Scott Sander. Each week on Business Equity and Opportunities, we will focus on a specific industry in business and focus on how it works. This week, we look at how a not-for-profit organization is making a difference by helping young businesses and the communities they serve.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Industry Focus.
Dr. David Hampton, Executive Director for LISC Indianapolis, a local initiative support corporation that works with neighborhoods to close the racial equity gap.
So when we think about community development and how to strengthen communities and neighborhoods, it's important for us to note that we work really within a sort of a place-based strategy. And by place-based, I mean we look for opportunities in particular neighborhoods. We work specifically in what we call great places neighborhoods. And most neighborhoods have developed their own quality of life sort of narratives. This is what we'd like to see in our neighborhood. We'd like to see more programs that help us to reduce the food equity and access paucity. Or we like to engage more in some of the social determinants of health, or we'd like to see more affordable housing in our neighborhood. So when we talk about quality of life, LISC really steps in to encourage organizations to work where you are and find the strengths in your neighborhoods. For example, if you're close to a YMCA, if you're close to the Marion County Health Department, if you are close in proximity to a school. We're here at Edna Martin, for example. This is a vital area. It's close to a school. You have Edna Martin Christian Center. You have other organizations in the neighborhood that when they work together, they work in a synergy that not only builds the individual organization, but it builds the ecosystem around it so that there's a sustainable community. And that's what we try to do at LISC. We encourage building communities that go beyond just the benefits of an individual organization. It's the same sort of mentality of any business or corporation. For example, if a corporation is deciding where to place, let's say, a new Walmart, a new grocery store, they're going to really think about what is going to bring the greatest return on investment. And so if you place that corporation in a neighborhood where where there's a very low economic where the income level is low, then automatically you can sort of see, that we might not have a great return on investment. And so as a result, some grocery stores have actually closed and have moved out of those neighborhoods. Well, you automatically create a food desert, right? So now there's no grocery store in that neighborhood. Well, let's say the grocery store closed, but also a school closed. Two, very vital anchor institutions, right? A school and a grocery store are vital to a neighborhood. So we also operate from what we call a love model. Love means livability, opportunity, vitality, and education. When we look for neighborhoods that perhaps lack one or all of those sort of dynamics, and we look to strengthen. So how can we build the educational infrastructure around this neighborhood? How can we create a more livable neighborhood? Perhaps a neighborhood needs sidewalks. Perhaps businesses need facades that are sort of revitalized. We provide facade grants, we provide small business grants, we look to partner with job training opportunities, educational opportunities. So we try to fund a wide range of services so that neighborhood organizations and businesses can thrive where they are and not have to be it's what we call zip code apartheid, right? It's your life expectancy, your quality of life should not really be determined by your zip code, but that is the reality. And LISC is an organization that steps in and says, we might be able to partner with you to help provide resources to build neighborhoods that help you to thrive.
Up next, we talk with Tim Spencer. He's the youngest CEO of a top 10 bank in the country. It's coming up shortly on Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. I'm Scott Sander. Thanks for watching this encore presentation of Business Equity and Opportunities. We hope you've learned some tips that'll help you start or grow your own business. If you'd like to catch up on past episodes or segments, watch us here every weekday or visit us at beoshow.com. And don't forget, new episodes of Business Equity and Opportunities air every Sunday morning on Wish TV, or you can stream it live at wishtv.com. Fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Watch Business Equity and Opportunities from Wish TV.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome back to Business Equity and Opportunities. Our final segment shines a light on something every entrepreneur hopes for in business: success. Each week on Business Equity and Opportunities, we share a success story from one of our business contributors. These are stories from those who've succeeded as owners of their own businesses or as successful heads of corporations that as entrepreneurs you may well interact with. This week we had a chance to meet with a new regional banking leader who shares his personal path to success and his hopes for accomplishments to come in our community.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Success Story.
Recently announced as the CEO for Fifth Third Bank, Tim Spence is the youngest CEO of a top 10 bank in the country. Not everyone's path is such a fast track to success, but the decisions he made along the way had a definite impact.
I'm a big believer that short of maybe being a doctor or an educator or somebody who works in a nonprofit or social services field, there are not that many professions that allow you to have the kind of impact on the place where you live that you can have when you work for a financial institution. And it's because of the resources we have, it's because of the connectivity, and it's because embedded in our business model is this idea that when our customers do well, the bank does well. And that was always, as somebody who is really civically minded, an important thing to me. It gives a purpose to what you do on a day in, day out basis that extends beyond just the business of banking. In its simplest form, we hold $1 of our shareholders' capital for every $10 in loans that we make, which means we're kind of a 10x bet on the health of the markets where we operate. So when people are able to transition from renting to being a homeowner, or when businesses have the capital to invest, to grow, and they create more employment opportunities than otherwise, our business works really, really well. And in markets where you struggle with economic mobility or access to capital to fund capital investments or new business formation or otherwise, it's a more difficult business. So we have not just this sort of sense of social purpose as an incentive, but a financial imperative to find ways to be constructive and to help people to achieve their major financial milestones. I also would like to believe that, especially in this time where we have social challenges that we didn't have in the past, where technology is playing a role in the business that it didn't 20 years ago, and where the people that we compete with don't look like the traditional competitors that we would have competed with in the past, that having a fresh perspective, being somebody who grew up. I mean, I learned to code in Logo in first grade. Who had the alpha client of Netscape Navigator running in my library, and the first computer that I saw in my high school gives me a little bit of a unique perspective on what maybe is to come.
For his innovative efforts to advance the banking industry digitally, he was named Digital Banker of the Year in 2018.
I think technology is really going to flatten the scale curve. And in particular take a lot of the hassle out of starting your business. There are things we don't have the ability to control, like government. You think about the impact that digital could have on the licensing process or the permits and the approvals process. I think there's lots of opportunity for innovation and government there. But in terms of getting your account set up, getting payroll processed, accepting payments, remitting payments to your suppliers, these are all things that required bookkeepers and a large back office to manage in the past that you're going to be able to do in a much more seamless and automated way right out of the gate as a business. I think we're already seeing that in a lot of parts of the small business ecosystem. I think in the future in the business, the tech development really is going to be focused on providing our customers with software that actually allows them to live better, right? Tools that actually help you to set your savings plan, and algorithms that run in the background that move small amounts of money on your behalf into your savings accounts to help you set up the plan in order to achieve it, and then to help you personalize those sorts of goals so that when you see a t-shirt that you might otherwise want to buy on Instagram, the thought process in your mind is not, hey, it's an extra $1 out of my checking account, but rather, this is my child's birthday fund. Do I want to be a good dad and keep the money in the birthday fund, or do I want to be a bad dad and get that t-shirt that I saw on Instagram?
For the people that we want to feel like they have opportunity, right? To feel like, you know what, I could really go start a business. I can't remember in my time being here in the US ever having something I could turn to that talks consistently to me as a black person about business. Right, so having that consistently, not once a quarter, blurbs, posts, but a consistent conversation about business startup towards a specific demographic, right? And in a lot of ways, right, TV has sent a lot of subliminal messages that didn't go to black people. Today, we see a lot more messages toward the black community, but this message about business startup, about an environment that encourages entrepreneurship, risk-taking, economic freedom, all of those things, right? And that consistent message, I say it's like hearing a song on the radio all the time. You don't like the song, but you just find yourself singing it. It's the same thing with this. Having the show and your commitment, and the commitment to a 52-week show that people can tune into, can watch online any day of the week, and then having follow-up resources. So it's one thing to hear about a business plan, and I got to go Google it and find out who has the best template for me to see. It's another thing to talk about a business plan and then have a link for you to click on that shows you examples, and then who you could go to in your community to help you do this. I think those things are game changing. I think it's innovative, right? So to me, those are the kinds of innovations that we need in a community that's trying to build things from the infancy stages. So, especially having the name business equity, so there's no misgivings on who is speaking to, right? And those are the kind of things we need, when people know exactly that, hey, look, this is for me. I can actually do this. If I have a booth space in a salon and I make $1,500 a week, but I'm not a registered business, you know what? I can actually go start my business, become bankable, and build my credit, and it's a game changer. So I think this is part of why I say Indy is so unique, because opportunities like this exist, and the fact that it's happening, right? It's really exciting, because it also triggers the mindset of something new coming to the community. It triggers the mindset of, like, we're actually making a change, right? It's actually something happening in Indy. So really appreciate that that's happening. Really appreciate it happening now and not 5 years from now. So I think it's a game changer, because now business owners, businesses, people who have ideas can turn into a station or tune in on a Sunday and see people that look like them, talking about things that they dream about. So I love it. I think the timing is perfect, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of change here in Indy in the immediate future.
Our thanks to all our contributors on this week's episode of Business Equity and Opportunities. We hope you found the information enlightening, useful, maybe inspiring. Be sure to discover more great videos and information online, beoshow.com. There you can access all of our content and share it on demand anytime. And be sure to sign up for our new Business Equity and Opportunities newsletter and get even more valuable, up-to-date information. Join us again next week and every Sunday for more insights into the world of small business on Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Thanks for watching.